Good afternoon. My name is V. Pradeep Reddy, and I am from Aeronautical Engineering branch. And my business economics and financial analysis topic is isocost curves. Isocost in economics, an isocost line shows all combinations of inputs which cost the same total amount, although similar to the budget constant in consumer theory. The use of the isocost line pertains to cost minimization in production as opposed to utility maximization for the two production inputs, labor and capital, with fixed unit costs of the inputs. The equation of the isocost line is with fixed unit of costs of inputs. The equation of the isocost line is Rk plus Wl equals to C, where W represents the wage rate of labor, R represents the rental rate of capital, K is the amount of capital used, L is the amount of labor used, and C is the total cost of acquiring those quantities of those two inputs. The absolute value of the slope of the isocost line with capital plotted vertically and labor plotted horizontally equals the ratio of unit costs of labor and capital. Slope is minus W by R. Isocost line is combined with the isoquant map to determine the optimal production point at any given level of input. Specifically, the point of tangency between any isoquant and isocost line gives the lowest cost combinations of inputs that can produce the level of output associated with that isoquant. Equivalently, it gives the maximum level of output that can be produced for a given total cost of inputs. A line joining tangency points of each isoquants and isocosts with input prices held constant is called the expansion path. The case of smooth isoquants convex to the origin. If the y isoquant is smooth and convex to the origin, and the cost minimizing bundle involves a positive amount of each input, then at a cost minimizing input bundle, an isocost line is tangent to the y isoquant. Now, since the absolute value of the slope of the isocost line is the input, but the absolute value of the slope of isocost line is the input cost ratio W by R, and the absolute value of the slope of an isoquant is the marginal rate of technical substitution MRTS. We reach the following conclusion: if the isoquants are smooth and convex to the origin and the cost minimizing input bundle involves a positive amount of each input, then this bundle satisfies the following two conditions. It is on the y isoquant, that is f of k comma l equals to y, where f is the production function and the MRTS at kl equals w by r. It is on the y isoquant where f is the production function and the MRTS equals w by r. The condition that the MRTS be equals to w by r can be given the following intuitive interpretation. We know that the MRTS is equal to the ratio of marginal products of two inputs. So the condition that the MRTS be equals to input cost ratio is equivalent to the condition that the marginal product per dollar is equal for the two inputs. This condition makes sense. At a particular input combination, if an extra dollar spent on input 1 yields more output than the extra dollar spent on input 2, then more of input 1 should be used on less of input 2 so that the input combination cannot be optimal. An isocost line is a curve which shows various combinations of inputs that cost the same total amount for the two production inputs, labor and capital, with fixed unit costs of the inputs. The isocost curve is a straight line. The isocost line is always used to determine the optimal production combined with the isoquant line. If W represents the wage rate of labor, R represents the rental rate of capital, K is the amount of capital used, L is the amount of labor used, and C is the total cost of the two inputs, then the isocost line can be C equals to Rk plus W by L. WL. In the figure, the point C by W on the horizontal axis represents that all the given costs are used in labor, and the point C by R on the vertical axis. This is the figure explaining the isocost isoquant diagram. As we can see, Q1 isoquant, Q2 isoquant, Q3 isoquant. Q1, Q2, Q3 are three curves which represent the isoquant, and the straight lines represent isocost lines. The slope is minus W by R, which represents the relative price. Any point within the isocost line indicates that 3 are surplus after purchasing the combination of labor and capital at this point. Any point outside the isocost line indicates that the combination of labor and capital is not enough to be purchased at the given cost. Only the point in the isocost line shows the combination that can be purchased to exactly at the given cost. If the prices of the T factors change, the isocost line will also change. Suppose W rises so that the maximum amount of labor that can be employed at the same cost will decrease. That is, the intercept of the isocost line on the L axis will decrease, and because R remains unchanged, the intercept of the isocost line on the K axis will remain unchanged. Thank you.